Good evening. We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education. Today is Wednesday, March 19, 2025. Please rise for the pledge to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the
which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with a reading of the mission statement. We are committed to academic achievement and success for all students in a safe environment. In partnership with families in our community, our mission is to promote confidence, inspire a passion for learning, and to prepare our students to become responsible global citizens. Is there a motion for the approval of the revised agenda?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Update on questions or comments raised from interested citizens. There are none. There are also no questions or comments from interested citizens tonight. And that brings us to our budget presentation by Ms. Hawk.
I think we're down here in the bottom somewhere. Need a PowerPoint, Brian? There it is. Okay. Do this for you. Okay, thanks.
All right. Good evening. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to present our personnel. I also want to thank our business office staff for their assistance in developing tonight's presentation, specifically Michael Bufamonte, Patricia Wallace, and Patrick Cahill. Thank you. In tonight's budget presentation, we will take a look at staffing from the following perspectives. We'll begin by looking at district-wide FTEs, or full-time equivalent positions, that we're proposing for the 2025-2026 school year. These positions will be reviewed in two separate categories: those included in the general fund and those that will be funded through federal and state grants. We will then provide an overview of expenditures or salaries for district personnel. And finally, we will examine the costs associated with employee benefits. Hang on.
You control.
Oh, you did it. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, sorry. On this first slide, we break down our district personnel into 20 categories or departments and provide a year-to-year comparison of FTEs. You will see that we have proposed a total of 1,128.68 FTEs for next year, which represents an overall year-to-year addition of 6.17 FTEs, or a 0.55% increase. Fun fact that I have to share, in preparing for this year's presentation, I reviewed presentations from previous years. And what I found was last year we had a reduction of 6.17 FTEs from the previous year of 2023-2024. So in 2023-2024, we had 1,128.68 FTEs, which is the exact number down to the 100th of what we're proposing for next year. It wasn't planned that way, but it's a pretty amazing coincidence. Essentially, what we're doing is we're recovering the 6.17 positions that we cut last year. For most of these categories, you'll see that changes from one year to the next are relatively small and inconsequential. These changes are typically due to recoding or portions being reassigned either to or from title grants. There is one number on here that jumps out to you immediately, so we're going to address that one first. It's the 12.49 FTE increase in the instructional staff on the teaching line. This line includes all teachers and teaching assistants, teacher aides, and any staff associated with the special education and ELL programs, including clerical. There are a few reasons, a few different things that contribute to this overall increase of 12.49. First, it's important to note that 4.75 of these FTEs were actually added during this current year, but they were not included in the budget simply because the need arose after the budget was adopted last spring. So we need to add them here. The positions added during the 24-25 school year included a part-time AIS teacher, part-time teaching assistant, additional E&L teachers, and 2 portions of clerical positions associated with special ed or ELL. Also contributing to the 12.49 FTE increase, we had a 1.0 behaviorist who was recoded from to the teaching line, and we had 2.14 FTEs that were returned to the general fund from the title grants where they were budgeted for last year. And this is due to typical fluctuations in recurrent grant funding. In terms of strictly new positions for the 2025-2026 school year, we are proposing a net increase of 4.6 FTEs. And I use the term net increase because we actually had a need for 7.6 positions, but a reduction of 3 sections of general education sections at the elementary level due to slightly decreased enrollment has allowed us to reallocate those 3 positions to other areas of need. These new positions include 2 new special education teachers, 2 new E&L teachers, a teacher for writer's workshop, several teaching assistants, and an E&L coordinator for point 6. I also want to look at the transportation line because that's where we see another large change. We see a decrease of 7.97 FTEs in that area. Now, it's important to note that we are not decreasing the number of drivers that we currently have. If you remember last year, we added additional positions with the hopes that we can increase our number of in-house runs. We did not fill those positions, and since they remain vacant, we are planning on removing them for the budget for next year. We will, however, continue to recruit and incentivize additional drivers. And if you're asking how we would do that, we have additional contracted runs right now, and should we be able to pull those back in-house, the money that would be spent for the contracted runs will be pulled back for salaries. Are there any questions so far?
Next slide.
Next slide. Okay, all the positions or FTEs we've just talked about are part of our proposed general fund budget. It's important to understand that there are an additional 43.91 FTEs that we are anticipating will be alternately funded through federal and state grants. We budget for these grants based on the current year, but there are small fluctuations from year to year based on federal allocations. You can see how important this funding is for our instructional staff because it provides us with salaries for 40 additional teachers and teaching assistants. Now that we know how many employees or FTEs we have district-wide, let's take a look at the salaries associated with these FTEs and explore the year-to-year salary comparison of various subgroups. I'm going to start by focusing on the last line of this chart. You can see a proposed budget of $112,689,974. This represents an overall proposed increase of 3.53% for staff salaries. In each of these subgroups, you'll see a percentage increase that is primarily reflective of employee step increases and contractual increases or raises. As expected for transportation, and for reasons already mentioned, you'll see a small reduction in transportation staffing costs. The largest percentage increase on this slide is in the other category. At 30.63%, the percentage increase is large, but you can see the dollar amount is relatively small and represents only 1.2% of our staffing expenditures. This category includes health insurance buyouts, vacation payouts, and we need to adequately appropriate funds in this area as we are contractually obligated. You'll also see under safety, there's a 5% increase in safety. It doesn't seem like a very large amount, but I do want to address it because it is slightly bigger than the others. Our increase in safety has to do with the capital project. We allocated additional money there because we anticipate that our buildings will need to have additional staffing for hours that they typically wouldn't be covered due to work being done by the capital project. Do we have any questions on this slide? Okay. The graphic on this slide shows how our human resources are allocated throughout the district and what percentage each subgroup represents in our overall personnel budget. As you would expect, the largest portion of our workforce is our instructional staff, representing over 82% of our overall staffing expenditures. On the next slide, when people think of staffing costs, they typically focus on salaries. But we cannot forget the equally important component of employee benefits. In this chart, we've outlined the expenditures for each of the benefit categories. Employee benefits or fringe benefits can be broken down into the 6 categories you see on this slide. As you can see, the overall increase in employment benefits is a modest 0.1%. Several categories remain unchanged from last year, but you will see that we do have a projected 2.6% increase in health insurance. Insurances for active employees and retirees represent the largest benefit expenditure, and the cost increase is primarily due to an increase in premiums through the Orange Ulster Healthcare Plan. We're also projecting a 7% increase in the area of other insurances. This includes workers' comp, life insurance, and unemployment. And this increase is primarily driven by an increase in our required contributions to the BOCES Workers' Comp Consortium, as well as an increase in unemployment. And finally, you'll see a decrease there of 6.5% in our contributions to the ERS and TRS systems. Again, all of these items result in a 0.1% increase in benefit expenditures.
Question? What accounts for that decrease? Patrick?
In the retirement system,
Yeah.
Suzanne? Well, there's many ways to sort of approach the retirement system projection or appropriation, and we participate with TRS, ERS, the state and local retirement system called ERS. ERS has literally different rates for different tiers, so the employees, mostly it's tier 3 and 4 employees have one rate, the newer employees are part of a different tier, so it can be a little trickier than it first appears. And what we did this year is we tried several methodologies, some new methodologies to projecting the budget for the ERS. And what we realized is we were probably over-resourced in the current year in that area, and we were able to, based on this sort of new way of looking at it, reduce that budget code. And so it's one of those things in budgeting, if you're very prudent and you're very conservative, you budget higher. But I always like to say where you want to start is you want to basically project what you think the number will be, and then based on the probability that there will be variance or variation in that projection and how safe you want it to be, probability and prudence is what I say, you then make an adjustment, a contingency based on that. So this year we looked at it and we said, I think we can bring this down, safely bring this down, and help the overall budget increase, reduce the overall budget increase in this area. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Next
slide.
So on the next slide, this chart shows a breakdown of the 6 employee benefit categories. You can see that health insurance accounts for almost 56% of the benefit expenditure, contributions to ERS and TRS, another 22%, and 15% of the budget is allocated for federal FICA tax. These 3 categories alone account for 93% of our expenditure in terms of benefits. And our takeaways are essentially this. We're committed to providing all students with a quality education. We have provided additional staffing through this budget and allocated existing instructional positions to address the needs of all students. And of course, we exercise for financial responsibility because it's always important to consider the impact to the taxpayers. With that, I'd like to ask, does anyone have any questions?
The FICA.
Put it to the last one.
FICA is 7.5%, right? It's not 15.
7.65.
Yeah. So why do we have a 15% FICA in our budget?
15%?
15%.
When you say 15,
Well, it says here that the budget, 15.13% of it is FICA tax.
I know what you're saying.
I think
That
that's
it represents
Pie chart.
the
Percentage
15%
of the
of the
pie.
portion of all of the benefits.
Benefits,
The whole pie.
the benefit pie. It's 15% of the FICA. The FICA rate is 7.65%. That's 7.65% of salaries, payroll. This is benefits. So you calculate the FICA amount, and then you compare that to all the other fringe benefits, and it represents 15% of the fringe benefits. That's what that pie chart represents, Sergey. Out of the total. So the total, 55,178,000.
15% of-
FICA is 15% of that. FICA at 8.3 million.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Thank you very much.
Thank
You
you.
very much.
Okay. Next is the approval of minutes from March 5th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Policy manual update.
Do you want me to speak? Okay. So we met on, what was it, March 11th, and we discussed 3 policies. The sexual harassment grievance policy is being reviewed by our attorneys, and the ex officio student board member and school district records policy are up for a first reading this evening. We also discussed adding a link to our website so that the policies and titles can be accessed easily. And our next meeting will be on April 22nd.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, for the next section, do I need to go through each?
You need to get an approval for the first reading of those two
Oh,
policies.
we need an approval for the first reading on those 2 policies. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Aye.
You don't have to.
So just,
All is agreed with you.
okay. So we need a motion to accept the annual budget vote scheduled for May 20th, 2025.
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And there's approval of a stipulation agreement.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And Ms. Hawk for personnel.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for approval from the board for the items listed under personnel this evening.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Mr. Cahill, Business and Financial.
Thank you. I'd like to respectfully request approval of the business and financial items 12.1 through 12.6.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And committees on special education and preschool special education, accepting recommendations. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And reports by Board of Education committees. Ms. Donahue, anything else on policy other than what you just said?
No, other
No?
than we will be meeting
Ms. Simmons,
again
any
on the
update?
22nd.
Sorry.
That's it.
No, the last meeting on March 5th, it was happening simultaneously with this one. I did follow up with Oxbow to see if there's anything that we missed, but the agenda just contained every school board having a student representative, which Monroe-Woodbury already has, so.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds for visitation.
We visited Smith Clove and the Ed Center, looked at the playgrounds and the rest of the buildings, so getting the great support from the team on making those even better than what they are. Even this lovely room, I think we're going to try to refurbish this beautiful room to its fine glory. So other than that, I think our next one is Craigville School in April 2nd.
Thank you. Patrick, did you want to speak about audit and capital project task force? Is there anything up to update?
We had a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, and I think we're going to have to reschedule that to some point in the near future. I think at that meeting, we're going to talk about the claims auditing process, which we typically do once a year, and probably the focus area for the internal audit, which may be payroll.
Okay.
I think the meeting thereafter, the June meeting, is June 11th.
Okay, and anything for the capital project?
One thing I did want to mention is we're approving a proposition for the May 20th budget vote, and the proposition essentially is asking the public for authorization to spend additional monies on capital work. And the total cost of that proposition would be $16.6 million. And folks are aware, I know obviously the board is aware, that we have an existing capital project of about $98 million, and 3 of the buildings that we're working on are getting new hot water heating system are the 325 buildings. So it's Pine Tree, North Main, and Central Valley. So we realized over the course of developing the design work for this that this would be a very cost-effective time to add air conditioning to the classrooms of those 3 buildings. And air conditioning is a big part of this, we're calling it Proposition 2, which will appear on the May ballot. The nature of that work, where we're converting a steam heating system to hot water, involves a new boiler in the basement, new piping that will run through the building, to a new unit ventilator in the classroom. So a relatively small additional investment, we're able to air condition all those classrooms. So that is a major part of our $16.6 million proposition. The other major piece of that is adding doors and walls, enclosing essentially the open classroom design at North Main Elementary School. So that's another big piece of that. We're also proposing to do some electrical upgrades at the other 3 buildings, Smith Clove, Sapphire, and the middle school, which will enable us to add window air conditioning units, because now there is a new law in New York State, the heat index law, which basically says that classrooms cannot be occupied when they get hotter than 88 degrees, or any instructional space, really. So
So the addition of adding that onto the 3 buildings is helping us achieve that.
Absolutely.
Mission.
And this is the biggest point I want to make about the $16.6 million ask. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but we've structured it to have no tax impact. And we're able to do that because we're putting down $5.3 million from our capital reserve, and the repayment, we would then borrow the remainder, and the repayment, the debt service, if you will equal the building aid. So we're able to spend $16.6 million. We have this really, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but really opportune moment to add air conditioning to 3 buildings, walls and doors to North Main, with no tax impact.
So the timing is good because it aligns with the,
Timing is good. It would cost us a great deal more later on
Some
down
point.
the line if we waited. So now is the time. It's, I like to say, it's like your own home. You're renovating your kitchen, the ceiling is open, it's the time to put in recessed lighting. That's essentially where we're at the 3 buildings, the 325 buildings. This is the time to add the air conditioning. It's the most cost-effective time. And we planned it and engineered it to have no impact, cost or tax impact, by using the capital reserve. We've been setting that money aside. So that's a big thing, big part of the Capital Advisory Task Force. We're going to be talking a lot about that on the 27th. It's our next meeting, and also talking about the construction phase of the $98 million project, which will begin this summer.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And next up are reports by Board and Central Office. Dr. Morales.
Good evening. Over the last few days, I had the opportunity to attend SEAM Night at CV as well as the Pine Tree Science Fair. Both were so much fun to see students engaged and explaining their projects, and I believe I built a catapult with a pom-pom. In addition, I would like to thank the Pine Tree team. Today was our superintendent conference day, and over 200 staff members arrived at Pine Tree for the day. So I want to thank Mr. Martin and Ms. Bennis, our custodial crew, Sabrina and Zach from the MCC, Mr. Trapoto for helping us with Rich and Mike this morning to direct traffic and parking, and basically for everybody working together to ensure that all of our logistics were taken care of. It was a great day. And other than that, just to congratulate Mr. Mochio on his appointment, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Cahill.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank Lori and her team for all their work on putting together the personnel budget. It's really a team effort, and everyone pulled together this year, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank the folks at Robert Half. We had a donation that we accepted this evening to the middle school and the high school. We really appreciate their generosity. And with that, I hope everyone has a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Vias?
Big shout out to CV team for hosting a really well-attended STEAM night. I really had fun too, not enjoying with the students, but also making a rocket. I also attended, middle school did a good job with their PTA and administration. They hosted an online session for parenting in the digital age by Dr. Shapiro. It was very well attended, and he gave some good nuggets about how different it is in parenting, being parent in the digital age. Good night.
Thank you. Dr. Hassler?
So also kind of following along with the middle school, I attended the professional development day at the middle school and at the high school today, and one of the presentations that the middle school hosted was for staff called Hidden in Plain Sight, and it's a presentation on current trends in drug use, vaping, cannabis, and it was very, very eye-opening about how sophisticated some of the things that are out there right now. And I bring this up because next Wednesday night, March 26th, starting at 6 o'clock at the middle school, they're having the same session for parents, and I encourage everybody to please, please, please attend, because it's very eye-opening to see what's out there these days. So it was a great presentation today. Please go out and attend. I attended middle school career fair. Great job to the team that did that. I don't know if this was a coincidence, but congrats to the middle school math league team. It was posted on Pi Day, Mrs. Spenley. I don't know if that was intentional or not, or what, was that intentional, Jen? So great job. Congrats. They won first place in the regional math league on Pi Day. So congratulations. Finally, I attended the high school college application workshop where we had just short of 500 people attend between students and parents, and it was a great, very eye-opening experience for me as a parent starting in that process, and just how supportive the entire high school team is, counselors, administration, in equipping our families with that very daunting process. So those that are working towards that, I highly encourage you to attend next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Howe?
Thank you. I actually want to commend every single person to my right over here for the professional development day that was planned and implemented for today's conference day. Throughout the district, we had multiple trainings going on, not just for our teachers but for our administrators, clerical, safety, custodial. I think we collectively did a wonderful job addressing each area and making sure that we had purposeful professional development for our employees. So thank you for that. I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Christopher Mochio, who was approved this evening as the Assistant School Lunch Manager. Congratulations and welcome to the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Novak is not here this evening. Ms. Donahue?
Yeah, I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Mochio and welcome him to our district. I'd like to thank you for the budget presentation. It was very informative. I also attended the STEAM night with my grandson, who built some kind of electrical device that made noise and flashlights, and he had a ball. We had a ball. I intend to attend Hidden in Plain Sight with my daughter-in-law next week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Secret Garden on the 28th. And have a good
Simmons.
evening, everyone.
I had the distinct honor and privilege of participating in the middle school career fair on the 7th, trying to entice the next generation of attorneys. The students were particularly inquisitive. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. I encourage anyone to participate moving forward. Also, that same weekend, the middle school had their phenomenal presentation of Honk Jr. All of the performers, as of all of the plays that we've seen this season, they did such an amazing, amazing job. Congratulations to all of the new appointees. And I'm sorry, I have other things on my mind in terms of personal family things, so I'm a little off my game this afternoon, but thank you, and have a great evening, everyone. So.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds?
Thanks for everything, for what everybody does. It was nice to see the two young ladies and all her classmates in the middle school play that are in the audience over there. Have a great night. Get home safe.
Thank you. Dr. Clarkman?
Thank you for the budget presentation. Very informative as always, and have a great day.
Thank you. Superintendent? Dr. Norman?
So I want to just really take pause to just thank the community. The cabinet, you did an amazing job. Professional development and all other things that you highlighted. Thank you for your time. Thank you for supporting our students. To the board, same. We see you at all these different events. I know that that time just doesn't appear. You make it. So thank you for that. And I want to thank the community, the parents, our students out there, because together, when we all form and support each other, we form a formidable force, if you will. And that gives me great pride. I had the privilege of presenting to the high school college African American history class this week. I had a great time. The students were engaged. We talked about a lot of history. We also studied the science behind biases. It was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing back from those students to see what they learned and see what they do with it, more importantly. You heard about STEAM night, so I won't go into that, but I will just share that I attended the station where we had to code to make the little bracelets. And so I made a bracelet that represented my name and my wife's name. And I want to thank that young man, Joshua, who led that station, high school senior. So if you're listening out there, Joshua, I kept my promise. I said I would acknowledge you. So this past weekend, I stopped by the elementary Special Olympics practice. It was an amazing opportunity and wonderful time to just really hang out with our Special Olympians. And they were practicing for their big event. But it was really great to see the parents, the coaches, the teachers really rally behind our students who's going to do amazing things. I also might add, if they're watching and listening, I had fun playing tag with them, and they're quick. So, lastly, it gives me a great pleasure just to share with the community that we had a Monroe-Woodbury alumni from the class of 2005 who recently won an Emmy Award. This young lady's name is Maiho Tamimasu, received an Emmy for individual achievement in animation. Background design for work on Orion and the Dark, a feature-length animated movie produced by DreamWorks Animation that premiered on Netflix in February 2024. As a senior at the high school, Maiho was voted most likely to succeed. So we certainly got it right. Congratulations to the families out there listening. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. I'll just end off saying thank you again to Lori and the team for putting together the budget presentation. Very easy to see everything that's going on here. And that's it. Have a good night, and welcome to all of our new hires, especially the new Assistant Director for Food Services. Thank you, and we're going to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting